Screen time, no screen time, limited screen time, screens for all of homeschool. We're all just figuring this out, okay? Every family is going to land on their own spot on this. But in case you're interested in any type of helpful, beneficial screen time for your homeschool, here's what we do. Check it out. Why screens in the first place? Let's start by being realistic here. This is not everyone's cup of tea, and I'm just a mom of four trying to homeschool and rotate everybody through their bookwork with me while they're going outside, getting some exercise, time on instruments, and some self-guided practice using the kid computer. Some of the ways we've seen this help is that it helps extend their learning beyond the books that we have. It also helps with independent learning. We're having them kind of self-regulate and get through their work on their own. It also helps them satisfy their curiosity. If they're curious about a topic and we don't have a book or a topic in a lesson about it, they can look it up. And there's also self-guided practice on there where it's just not necessary for me to sit there and watch them do a bunch of math problems. This is another way to get that type of self-guided practice in. So I'm going to share some of our favorite websites and apps that we use each day. And not everybody uses all of these apps every day. Sometimes it's just for fun. Sometimes it's for actual schoolwork. For most of them, they've got a 12-minute timer limit. Don't ask me where that came from. I think it was a compromise one day between 10 and 15. They wanted 15. We wanted 10. So we met in the middle at 12. Close to the middle at least. That's where we're at. So they set a timer on their own. We have a phone that we kind of share and use for timers. That's where that happens. That way, when the timer goes off, everybody knows that the time is up and they can switch out the person who's using the computer. Also, to be clear, our kid computer lives on the kitchen table with the screen facing out so that everybody can see. This just helps with a little bit of accountability and making sure that we're all aware of what's happening. Also, a little tip that's helped us is that we didn't want kids searching on their own. So we went ahead and bookmarked these websites or these apps on our browser so that kids knew they just had to go click on this logo or this icon in order to get to the thing that they wanted to do. Didn't want them finding things that they shouldn't on their own. Just make it a lot easier. So in no particular order, here are the ones that I'm going to talk about. And you can find the timestamps down below if you want to take a look at those at something in particular. But in case you're curious, here's what we use and let's go take a look at them. Okay, first up is Flocabulary. So Flocabulary is kind of a hip hop video-based lesson. They have all sorts of topics in there, things that are vocabulary based, as well as math, science, language arts topics. So really, if you're teaching anything, history or whatever it is, it's going to be in here. There are so many really, really fun videos, and my kids just love this. It's super intuitive. It's also super digital age friendly. For example, in some of the activities that they have to do, they have to crop a video, trim a video in order to show where the definition is for the word that they're being asked about. It's super, super engaging. I love it. They love it. Our kids are really into Sacagawea right now. And so they are learning all about her. And down to our 6-year-old who's doing these lessons. So as the parent, I can assign them certain lessons if there's something that in particular that I want them to learn about. Or I can just give them a few, for example, I always assign them a bunch of math ones so that they can just practice and have fun with it. But it's kind of sneaky teacher mom in there. All right, up next is Nearpod, Flocabulary's sister company, actually. Nearpod has everything you could want and more. I should mention these are free. So you can check out these lessons. If you create a free Nearpod account, it's called a silver account, you have access to a lot of stuff. I happen to have access to a lot more. I am a Nearpod pioneer, so that means I get to try out new stuff. But I'm going to show you around today because there is just so much good stuff in here. And I think it's worth it even as a parent to invest in the gold because you've got a lot more storage and you're able to take a look around at lots of different resources. So as you can see, there are a ton of different subjects and topics. So lots of different holidays and special topics that people need to be aware of. There are games and activities that kids can do. Our kids, for example, will specifically say, Mom, can you give us time to climb, which are these game-based assessments. And so I'll pick a few that I know that they've learned recently and have them get started on those, but very fun little connection points in here. And sometimes kids will just say, hey, what is this? What world religions? What is Buddhism? What is Hinduism? What is Judaism? And so they want to go deep dive, more than just what we can talk about in our family at a dinner table conversation. They can do full lessons in here, and they're K-12. So it's really cool to see how they've adapted for the younger kids. And then you can kind of scale up as you go with your kids. So the Nearpod lesson library over here on the left has so much good stuff in there. And you can create your own lessons as well. I've got another video on that. You can check that out up here. Next up is Reading A to Z, or RAS, as some may know this. I experienced this as a classroom teacher. I now have access to it as a online teacher, and these books are just fantastic. My kids love it. So they hop in here and they can read. One book is kind of what we tell them to do, but a lot of times they'll sneak in 2 or 3. For the younger kids, something that's awesome about this is there is a audio reading, so they can have the book read aloud to them, which is fantastic. Yes, it does count as reading. Totally fine. We're all for that vocab growth and comprehension, the little quizzes that are in here. This is an awesome thing. So not free, but there are trials, and I think there are plans that maybe make sense for families. So definitely something to check out. Up next is our French resource. My kids take French with a teacher on Preply. If you're looking for language resources, teachers for different languages, I have a 70% off code down below. You're welcome to check that out. But every day, whether they have French class with her or not, we have it twice a week, they are encouraged to do 1 or 2 of these videos. It's kind of like PBS for kids in French. Our kids really like the cooking show. There's kind of like a Master Chef type situation. So it's great. They're clean and very simple, quick things for them to brush up on a little bit of everyday French. So kind of fun and free. Earlier, I mentioned those kind of self-guided practice moments where I don't need to sit next to them and watch them do a bunch of math problems. And so something that I've found for this is XtraMath.org, free, created a teacher account and loaded each of our kids in, put in their grade level so that they could start out and show mastery, and then they move up. They go from easy addition to something a little bit more difficult, and then up to, multiplication, division. And so it's a very simple thing. They just compete. There's like a virtual teacher in there, and they compete against the teacher. They earn kind of streaks if they get a certain amount of correct answers in a row, then they'll earn a streak. And so it's kind of a little competition, very quick, just something that they check off to get a little bit of extra practice in there. Next up is Freckle. Freckle is another one of those self-guided practice moments. There are ELA and math options in here. As you can see down here, this is kind of what it looks like. Kids walk through different standards and skills, and there's a bunch of fact practice and reading comprehension, great little books. Again, they can be read aloud. So just a fun extra thing for them so that it's not always just book work and it's not always just sitting down and being told to do something. It feels a little bit more like discovery. Next up is Canva, which may not be on your top list of educational apps and websites. However, this is something that our kids who are very creative wanted to do once they saw me using it to create stuff for business and editing, video editing. So here it is. They usually make things that correspond to books that they're reading. We've got lots of Babysitters Club and Harry Potter characters and Mysterious Benedict Society characters, little notes. We've got an interior design fan, so she's getting pictures of houses. So just little things like that. They often make birthday cards for family members. So it's a very simple thing. This is one of those timed things where we give them about 12 minutes to do what they need to do. And sometimes it gets printed, sometimes it just lives in here, but definitely a fun, creative outlet for them. And last but not least is Nat Geo Kids, National Geographic Kids. Fantastic website. I love using it for teaching, but there is just so much in here. Kids love to explore in here, lots of different interesting topics like Ed Laos in Puerto Rico and writing a letter, that sort of thing. So there's just a lot to explore here. There are also games. So this is more one of those privileges that kids get to play and explore in here. Definitely timed, but feel fine about kids hanging out in here. And it's one of those things that we've got bookmarked up top. They know they can explore around Nat Geo Kids and find some fun stuff. So what do you think? Are these acceptable uses of technology for our family? They are. And I think that's important. Wherever you land on this issue, there's definitely going to be some discrepancy. But for us, this works really well. It helps us kind of cycle through the work that we need to get done each day, make sure each kid is getting their needs met, and have some fun along the way. Who said learning has to be boring? So I would love to hear in the comments what you use in your homeschool. If you have any questions, you're welcome to leave them in the comments. We'll be happy to answer them down there. And if nobody's told you yet today, thank you. Thank you for doing what you're doing. It's important. Happy teaching.